Hello everyone to my today's presentation about the possibility to export budget plans, especially for the public sector from SAP Analytics Cloud. What I will present today is biExport. This is a partner solution that is created by BI Excellence to provide export features in general to the SAP front ends. So this solution is actually not just designed for SAC, but it has been on the market for quite a while. It was actually created already for the very old nowadays BEX web reporting, and then we followed the journey of SAP to Webby, to Design Studio, Lumira Designer, Lumira Discovery, and now also came to SAC. So this solution is actually a full suite of features that can create all the export scenarios you might wish for. Maybe before I start the presentation, I will share my contact details. So you can also contact me in case you want to get some more detailed information, or some of the information that I provided is still a bit too shallow. There will be a lot of information in this presentation. And so, yeah, feel free to contact me anytime. You have my email address here, or you can also find me via LinkedIn, via Thilo Knetzele. There's also the website with a lot of content here, sacexport.com. So you're also invited to visit that site. Before I start with the budget planning solution and the creation of these exports for the public sector in general, I just want to show you some of the possibilities that you have with that solution. Let's start with that one. There's only one slide that I will show today. The rest will be demo in the tool itself. So first of all, what is the biExport solution capable of doing? It's in general customizable to your needs. So we provide a lot of possibilities to change the behavior of the solution. So I could say that really any export scenario that is out there, we can actually fulfill, from the very simple one to the really complex documents with a lot of slides, a lot of pages. So first of all, let's talk about the export formats that we provide. So of course, you can create briefing books with our tool. Briefing books would be usually documents with a table of contents, a title page, kind of a chapter structure, also a lot of texts to explain what you're looking at. So they can be still rather simple, but they can also get really complex, and the normal format would be Word in that case. So this represents the Word export. Then we have the management presentations. So of course we would export to PowerPoint or any other tool that can be used for presentations. So also Apple Keynote, of course, is one target application here, or any other open source presentation tools. So yeah, for management presentations, the idea is that if you have recurring presentations that you have to give monthly, on a monthly basis, for example, then you can really create these automatically and you don't have to copy and paste everything. But the idea is that you have a ready to present presentation in the end. Then we also offer an Excel export. This is actually, when you compare it to the standard solution, it's much more, let's say, user-friendly, I would say, because it's not just a dump of the data, but it contains all the formatting of the data and also the styling of the table cells. We are even capable of exporting the charts into Excel. Of course, they aren't images in that case, but they will be real Excel charts in the Excel document. The same actually also goes for PowerPoint and Word. You are not only able to export images of all the content, but you can also export tables or text fields into PowerPoint texts, and you can also create native PowerPoint charts from the native SAP charts. So you have a lot of possibilities here to create really, really perfect documents with biExport. Then we come to the point external communication, and I think the export of budget plans is actually one of these scenarios. So it means that any document that you share with externals, with the world, they would actually normally be the PDF format. And we are actually capable of creating complex PDF documents and really nice looking PDF documents. So they are not these kind of one-pager documents with a customizable header and footer that you normally would get, but you really get more possibilities to create title pages, table of contents, and so on. Some examples, just aside of the budget plans, are, for example, sharing vendor evaluation with your vendors, sharing the performance and KPIs with your delivery partners, or even publishing your last monthly closing, your figures with the analysts outside. So a lot of possibilities here. You could also share your sustainability reports with that in really, really beautiful documents. Just put the data from SAC into it, and it will be a really automatically created document. The nice thing, what we will see later on, is that these PDF documents can be created really easily. So there's not a new tool that you have to learn to create these documents, to learn how you do a table of contents, for example, but you actually can use the Word documents, the PowerPoint presentations, or the Excel documents that you would usually use as templates for the Office exports, also for PDF exports. And technically, it's really simple. We just save this export as PDF. So it's the same thing that you would do on your computer, but things that we can do it automatically. And so the end users really get this wow effect because they get a really beautiful document. And still, for the developer of these documents, it's really simple because you can do everything that Office offers, and you can do it quite nicely because you're used to do it in these documents. Now, with this comes actually the point here, corporate design. So of course, via these export templates that you can create in the Office products, of course, you can use your corporate masters and do everything in your corporate design. So it's really no problem to add a logo and your company colors, for example. What we also can do, and which is really important for the budget plans, but not only for the budget plans, is the collection of multiple views. So we are actually not only able to create the documents from what is currently viewed at, or the initial view of the dashboards, but we can actually remote control kind of the dashboards, the SAC applications or stories, and therewith create different views of the same data. So if there is some requirement that you want to see the data in a PowerPoint presentation for different profit centers, for example, or you want to see it for your different sales regions, this feature can be used to create exactly this. This also means that for the budget plans, of course, this section where you want to show the detailed figures for each product, this is actually using this feature here. Then, of course, we also provide a calendar and event-based scheduling. It's something that you already offer within SAC, but it's actually the problem that we, with our export formats, cannot integrate with SAC. And that is why we have to provide our own tool for that. But actually, we provide all the features that you might dream of, I would say, even those who are coming from the old BEX broadcaster into this tool. So actually, you can do a lot of things with the scheduler that we provide with biExport. Then, of course, you can choose between multiple output channels. We will see that later in the presentation. We will have broadcasting and bursting also as a scenario, and the whole suite is extendable. So even if there is one feature that is missing in a customer project, we can deliver it and put it into as a plugin into the biExport tool. So this is just to give you an overview of what we are generally capable of doing with the export. So in general, we don't have kind of a fixture on one industry sector or something, but of course the budget plans are a really, really huge scenario where we create, where we can get really, really nice documents from. So I want to share, first of all, the document that you can create, the budget export that you could do. Of course, it's really important to note that this document is not fixed. So everything that you see here can be designed as you wish. As I said, the source of this document are Word templates, like simple Word documents. So if you want to change the title page, of course, you will do it in the Word document later on. So we will see that also in a minute how this is designed. But what we did here actually, because it was a joint development between SAP and BI Excellence, so we did a lot of discussions what features should be involved in this tool. We just decided to do also the demo together, so you can see our both logos here, and we have this really nice picture that in the SAP style. Of course, you could change everything, as I said. So the first thing that we see is that we have the year 2021 displayed here. So really important to think about how this will look in the document later on in the export template. Is it something that we have to change manually with all with the next budget plan that we export, or is it something that we could provide dynamically to make the process of creating a budget plan much easier? So just keep that in mind that we have this year displayed here. Now let's move a little bit through the document. I actually have the document open twice because I want to show here already the different the different options that you have when you create these documents. So these two documents look quite alike. There's just one part where we did something different, but it's quite interesting which different options you would have here. But for now, we start with the table of contents here. Sorry that this is in German, but it actually is created for demos with the German towns and cities. Of course, we could also do it in English, but this is kind of a really nice document that we created for the demos in Germany so far. You can see that actually the table of contents looks quite nicely. You can even click on the pages. Everything is rendered automatically. And as we will see later on, this is just a really simple thing to do that because we are reusing the Word table of contents here. And just a small side note here, it's really interesting that this feature, at least in Germany, is quite something something that the people like, because they still have to do these things manually right now, because they sometimes have such manual processes to create the Word documents that they cannot use the chapter markers to create an automatic table of contents. So with our tool also this gets automated. It's really a simple solution here, but for the customers it's really something that eases the process. So let's have a look at the first one, which is actually when you translated area and population. So here we don't have any content, but the idea is that here you could have just some explanations, something that isn't fed with data from SAC, but just some texts that explain how the population and the area changed during the last year. Much more interesting comes here the Haushaltssatzung, which is kind of the, so to say, law part of this document. You can again see that we display the year here and also here. So again, we have a lot of references to the year of the budget plan here. And the really interesting part of this law part is you have a lot of paragraphs here. And the paragraphs, of course, they contain really plain text, but also some figures from SAC or from the reporting. So the idea here is, or the question is, how could we create these pages? Would we have to create these manually and transfer the figures manually into this document? Or would we have all the texts within SAC and then export them into this tool? And I will come to that later on, which we prefer as a solution and which flexibility you have here. But this is already the first really interesting section, because here you have some data that is provided from SAC. Let's move to the next section. We have something like the overall results or overall financial view. So here again, we have data that is actually created within SAC. And you can see that this is a normal table. It's not an image, but it's a table because we can export the raw data, but in a formatted way from SAC. So all the formats that you can see here, they are actually from the table within SAC that we will see later on. So we have here now the two tables for the results and the financial view. And then we come to the product part. And the idea in this document was that in the overall table of contents, we only reference the product overview here. And then all the products below it are actually referenced here. So we actually provide a second table of contents here to show which products are really contained in the document, and again with the page markers here. Here I want to show you also the second document, because it's quite interesting how you could do this in a different way. So here you can see that we don't have page numbers, but we have kind of the real overview of all the products, of the whole product hierarchy. So in that case, it's rather a dump of the master data in the system. So it's really an overview. So you can really decide which is actually better in your for your customer, for example. Of course, this is, as I said, not the only one that you can decide. You can actually create the whole document just in the way you need it. Okay, and now we come to the part where we have all the the results and the financial figures for the different products. And they actually kind of course, are cloned, these sections, because for each product, the look of the section is kind of the same. You just have maybe some master data that you show at the beginning, and then you show the figures here. And of course, which is really important, then you have a part where you show some comments or some explanations to the figures that are displayed in the tables. And usually this part is something that is collected from the users and the different, let's say, teams in the organization. And the really important thing is also here, how do we get these texts into the document? Of course, one option would be that you have it in the export template in the document that is used for the generation of the PDF document. Of course, the problem could be that then you have a lot of people uploading the Word documents that they edited to the export solution. And this is something where you don't have the real overview of who's finished, who's still working on that stuff. And there's also a bit of a yeah, there is the huge opportunity for failure in this, because you could upload it to the wrong folder and so on. So this is not what we, of course it's possible, but it's not what we would propose to be done. Another thing is, you could actually say these texts should come as comments from SAC, which is really possible. So we can actually extract the comments into this document. But again, some of the customers have really sophisticated requirements on these explanations here. They want to do a lot of formatting here. They might want to also upload images or maybe tables with some data that is not available within SAC, maybe some market data, some population data, or whatever. So they have really sophisticated requirements here, and it's really hard to meet these requirements from SAC. So we also provide within the export tool a process and a tool-based UI that actually allows or supports the collection of these texts, as we will see later on. But first of all, let's switch now to Word and see how we designed this document. And I will show that to you with the example of 3 different sections. As you remember, we had this first section with the title page and the table of contents. Then we had the law part, where we had some data that we wanted to extract from SAC. And then we had the third part, where we had really a lot of data of the products and also the comments. So these are the 3 sections that we should look at right now. So first section, you can see that the document is exactly defined as you saw it in the PDF in the Word document. You can see also that here is one part, the placeholder for the year. So actually we are able to use placeholders in the document where actually generic information shall be extracted into the document. So the year is one really good example for this, because of course we have to filter the SAC report for the year to show the right figures. And we can actually use this filter also for the display in the document. So wherever you reference the year, you can just reference it via our placeholders. And this means that once you copy the documents for the next year, you have as little work to do, as little changes that you have to apply for the document as possible, because you have the whole text already available. You have these parts that change over the years, also parameterized. So it's really simple to create documents that you don't have to do a makeover of every year. Then really important, the table of contents. So you can see that this is actually a table of contents within Word. The German text that you can see here just explains that there are no chapter markers right now in the document. So Word cannot create a table of contents here at this point in time. But you can see it's no surprise that we don't have chapter markers, because this is the very last page of this document. So as you can see already, we are able to split the document, the whole budget plan, into a lot of small sub-documents. And the idea behind this is that you can structure the document much simpler in that way. It's much simpler to work with these small documents than if you had a document that maybe contains 200 pages or even more. And then you have to change something in this document. If you have these small sections, it's easier to change something in the document. And it's also easier to define different references for the different sections. So for example, for this section, we don't need any reference to data at all. But then the next document is the law part, where we again have the placeholder for the year here. And then you can see we actually said we want to have all the texts here within the document because they usually don't change. So even if I copy this document then, or the whole budget plan to the next year, I don't have to change this subdocument because the paragraphs don't change. But we also provided references here to different widgets within SAC. And this actually allows us to pull the data from SAC and display it here in line in the text. So it's really important that we can use these references also within the text, actually. The next part is the part of the products. And you can see that again, here we have some placeholders to display the product that we just want to display here. We also have placeholders to the tables within the SAC report. And this is first of all for the results and then for the financial view. And then we also have one part where we have this placeholder for the comments. So no matter if the comments come from SAC or via the biExport solution with a process-based collection, you have this placeholder here where the comments come in the end. And this is already the document. So now you can also see that this part here, for example, is defined as a chapter within the styles of Word. And this is actually how Word later on creates the table of contents. So what the export solution does, it just puts together all the documents, and then it replaces the placeholders. And in the last part, it refreshes all fields of the document, so also the table of contents, and then it saves the document as a PDF. So it's rather a simple process, the same as you would do if you created this document manually. One last note for the documents, because the advantage of having these small sections is that, for example, this section that is kind of a template for each product can be used multiple times and can be actually cloned for each product automatically. So you don't have to make sure that you have, like for each product in your document is included the section, but it's something that you design in the export solution that you want to actually retrieve 20 products, and then you create this section 20 times. So it's also one advantage of having split the document into different parts, because you can do this iterative definitions as well. So before we look at the way how the document is designed here in the tool, we actually switch to the SAC tenant. Oh, just have to do it again. Sorry. So actually, we are using here the tenant that actually is the demo tenant for the SAP public sector demos. And we have one part here. Let's look at the stories. We've actually created one story that acts as the source for all the information that we provide in the document. Of course, as we will see later on, it's not needed that you use a story. You could also use an application or a unified story in the future. We support everything. You could also use multiple stories if you designed your reporting like this, or you could choose just one page and have all the information in that page. So it actually depends on you, how you use the tool. We are really flexible to adapt to this. We will also see it in the definition in just a minute. So first of all, let's have a look at this document. You can see that we have different pages here, one for the results view, Then for the financial view of the planning, then we also have the product overview here. And this is actually the source of this one page that I showed to you, where we see all the whole hierarchy of the document. So you can actually create a master data report here. You could also have it in a flat hierarchy if you have the model set up like this. And then you could, of course, show it in the export document instead of this table of contents that I also showed to you. Then the third page is shows the paragraphs of the Haushaltsplansatzung. You can see that we brought in some texts here just to show to you that this is maybe something that you would normally not expect within SAC, because it's something that doesn't provide you any value when you are talking about reporting. So the idea is that actually it would be sufficient for the export of these budget plans to just have these figures here in the story, not the text. We don't export any of these texts. And these figures here are actually, in that case, metric charts. So of course you could also export other widgets, but this is how this was designed here. And we actually then retrieve those figures here. Okay, so now comes the last part. We saw how the document is designed, where the data comes from, and now we bring everything together. And this is where we start with the biExport report generator. We call this report generator because, as we will see when we edit one of the budget plans here, probably have to refresh. Yeah, just have to relog on to the UI. Maybe one side note, this URL that you can see here, it's actually, in my case, it's localhost because I installed the export service on my local machine for the demos. But we actually offer on-premise installations for maximum security. A lot of our customers request this. But you could, of course, also have a cloud-based service where we host it in Germany and take care of the maintenance, and that the service always runs smoothly. So we just want to go to edit mode here. The first thing that we see is that I actually created a parameter which is just called the same as the reference that we saw in the document. It's set to 2021 here. So this acts as a filter for my stories, and at the same time it also acts as the source of the placeholder. And now let's say when I copy this definition here for the next year, the only thing, in the best case, the only thing that I have to do is that I have to change this to 2022. Of course, I might also have to change some things in the document structure, but then I can just change the dedicated sections that really change. Before we look at that, let's have a look at the format here. It's set to PDF. You could easily just change this to Word to create a Word document and to do some changes to the document before you really publish it. So it might also be interesting to use this as an interim format. You can also see that we could create PowerPoint and Excel documents in the same way. The reason is that this, as I said, is a really open solution. So it's not only created for the budget planning in the public sector, but it's also used by huge companies worldwide to create their rather complex documents. So for example, if you have a PowerPoint presentation with like 100 slides that shows different stories in different with different filters and so on, you could also create these documents simply with this document, and you would just say with this UI, and you would just say you want to create a PowerPoint presentation in that case. So it's really open. That's also why we call it report generator, because it's nothing that is just designed for the budget plans. Also, maybe a really important side note that everything that you see here is actually it's a UI that end users or key users can use in the company or in the public organization. We also offer the same features also within SAC via our custom widget. And in the custom widget, of course, you might have to program that stuff. So you use scripting to actually create the document, to retrieve the different data and so on. But this means that you are not, you don't rely on this UI if you don't like it, or if you need some more, some tighter integration, then you could also use the scripts that we also use to, and we use actually the same methods here in that UI to create this more dynamically. So we talked a lot about these different documents that we create for the whole document. Here is where we upload them to the UI. And I have a really simple document in my case. So I have it just as a plain list. Of course, you could also use folders to have some more structure in the document and to make it easier to maintain it. And then you can see that again, we have here, for example, the first pages with the table of contents. When I go to edit, there's nothing much to see here because it's just the document that we use. Everything that is defined is just defined in Word. But the first part that is interesting is, again, the law part where we actually draw the figures from SAC. And here you can see that we actually choose the data from SAC. And then we have this second tab here where we can actually define the reference to my SAC tenant. First of all, I select the connection to the SAC tenant. So this is something that, of course, you have to configure first on the export service that you install. But then we have the connection to SAC, and maybe you already saw the blinking here of messages on the right side. That's why, that's because I actually put in my user here, and it automatically retrieves the metadata from this SAC tenant. So you can see that in that case, I just use that story to retrieve the data from. But I could also choose here another story that I want to use. And I could also use an application or as many applications or stories as I want. So this is really flexible, and we will just execute all the stories and applications that you select here. Now, really important for the execution of this story is that you saw we have different pages, and there's only the third page where we show the data of, let me just do this again because it was just something mixed. Yeah, so we have the page 3 here that is defined, and the page 3 is actually the page where we have the Haushaltssatz. So this is where we had to choose which page, of course, we want to open to collect the data. You can also see that we are using the standard API from SAP. So this is nothing that is some scripts that are running on the executed page, but we actually just put everything into the URL. So we are as close as possible to the standard here and just using the standard APIs. Now let's have a look at the Gesamtergebnisplan. So this is actually the overall result. Also here we want to show the data from the results and from the financial planning view. And you can see that we are again referencing the same story, but this time we reference page 1 and page 2 because this is where the tables were on. Of course, it would make more sense to have all the or both tables on one page, then you have to execute one page less here, but it's just to show you what is possible with the tool. So we are really, we are able to adapt to what you created. So here we are now looking at the product view, and you can see that the add comments or add explanations is ticked here. We will come back to that in a minute. Just have a look at the data reference again. So again, we are referencing page 1 and page 2 here, but this time we use these filter parameters as well to filter for dedicated products here. So this, you can see that it just builds up a little bit. So in this case, we are filtering on 125. When we look at the next one, it filters on 142. So this is how you can set this up, and it's all based on the same section. Now, because we ticked the add comments part here, we also have this third tab here, which is actually the contributors here. The contributors actually are user groups that have been defined on the export service. From a functional perspective, this would be different teams in your organization or in the city's organization. Of course, behind these user groups, you can map different users. So it's no problem if someone leaves the organization or is ill right now, then you can just have a substitute to this person. So here you just say you want to collect from this team the results, and we can see that here are already some explanations, because it's actually the budget plan that I already exported into the PDF document. So you can see that both parts or both teams already delivered, and I can have a look at the part that is delivered. Here we have some, just some demo text in, but you can see that there's a full-blown HTML editor here to format, to add images, and so on. And you even have a link here, which actually jumps to the SAC report with all the parameters in it, as you can see here. So actually, the idea is here that someone who adds the text or who checks the text can have a direct view of the report to check if everything is correct, what is said here. You can also see that we have a small workflow here that actually the editor of the budget plan has to release all these parts first, because they are brought into the document. So the idea is to have a small workflow here that we will actually enhance over the next months, also to have a lot of possibilities here. Now, before we see how these comments are collected, I just want to show you shortly how you can generate the document. So you can see that you can here send an email of the budget plan, but you also would have the possibility to store it on SharePoint, for example, store it on a file server, and much more. So it's really open how the document is stored in the end. You would have the possibility to have a calendar-based or event-based planning here. So either I do it just once, this is the standard setting, or I could do it like every month if I have this recurring presentation, for example. I could also switch to event-based in case I want to create this document whenever the period is closed. So there would be an event sent to the export service, and automatically the document would be created. Also, you would have the possibility to also export just subsections of this whole document. This makes sense in particular, let's say, if you have different areas or departments within your city. You have a great city, and then you have smaller sections within the city, and they might have just the need to export parts of this whole document. So you could just say, okay, I just want to have one of the folder structures to be exported. That's why it makes sense to have these folders, the whole document structured via these folders. And then you generate this, and then you will receive the document after a while in your inbox or in the output channel that you chose. So last thing that I would like to show you, that I'm now logging in as my the user of the culture part. Then you can see it's the same UI, but it has a different look and feel here because this user just gets a work list of budget plans he has to work on. Usually it would probably be just one, but in my case, it's a multiple that I just created for demo purposes. I always see for which section of the document I have to provide comments, and I can see the status of my work here. So I could just click in here. I could just add some comments here. Also, again, have a look at the report, and then either save it as a draft or already release it to the editor of the budget plan. So this was a really, really fast and in-depth presentation of our solution. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that I raised your interest in that. I can bet that you have a lot of questions now regarding technical things or even the functional aspects. So don't hesitate to contact me, as I said, via email or via LinkedIn. And yeah, hope to hear from you very soon. Goodbye.